Big spoilers ahead.
Khaenri'ah didn't fall, did it? Since you're still here.
Correct.
You know it's a We Will Be Reunited Archon quest when it leaves you emotionally ruined and empty. And speaking of which, hey Google, look for therapists near me.
I found a few therapists near you.
Alright, cool. Anyways, let's talk about it, shall we? The main reason why this quest was so tear-jerking and the reason why I literally cannot think about anything else but this quest is because of Dainsleif's character. It's very refreshing to see Dainsleif having a personality with emotions, feelings, and empathy instead of being another generic let's get this over with or I'll bottle up my emotions, edgy or emo character. The humanity inside Dainsleif actually showed itself in this quest, as well as the humanity of the creatures of the abyss, which is absolutely amazing how they showed both things in one quest, signifying that Dainsleif embodies the monster-turned-khaenri'ah people. Alright. Before everything started, we talk with Catherine and get a little bit of foreshadowing and more weird information on whatever Catherine is. Like, how did she get from Inazuma to Liyue in a single day? I know she hinted that she's able to teleport when we first interacted with the Inazuma Adventurers Guild, but it's still very vague. Also, the unexpected reunion fortune slip can refer to many things that happened in the story quest. There's the Traveler and Dainsleif, Dainsleif and Halfdan, hilichurls and Death. You name it. So at the beginning of the main story, we see Dainsleif do two things that show a little of his naiveness. One, him never having been inside the chasm until that moment, and two, only recently concluding about how Abyss portal networks work, which tells us that he is also in the dark and not an omniscient person who immediately knows about everything about the Abyss. Then after this, we finally got an answer to what the hell happened to the eye of the first field dealer, which he says is in a safe place. And to be honest, at first, I thought it was a waste of plot potential, but this is kind of the first ever important plot item, and if they said that it got lost in just the second chapter, this would immediately make the Traveler lose faith and trust in Dainsleif. So for now, the eye of the first field dealer is simply a Chekhov's gun waiting to be fired. And speaking of Chekhov's guns, they also introduced an Abyss Order operation called the Loom of Fate operation, which is like even more than just a Chekhov's gun. This is like Chekhov's nuclear missile, which is a separate lore video in it of itself, but this is a very great introduction of it. And yeah, it was said so nonchalantly, but that kinda adds to the mystery of it. Throughout the quest, Traveler repeatedly shows a little bit of doubt towards Dainsleif, and in this part, Dainsleif switches and turns the table and asks the Traveler why they are down in the chasm in the first place. And I found that pretty funny. It's also here that Dainsleif gives us confirmation that yes, indeed, hilichurls were once humans from the fallen nation of Khaenri'ah. The story he told about why hilichurls use masks was also very heartbreaking. And notice how he says that the curse of immortality denies death and not, provide longevity. We know by now that the creatures of the abyss are constantly in pain and suffering but never being able to die from the pain. And even if they do die, they still continue to suffer whatever the effect of this corrosion is. Then we pick up from the claim the Abyss sibling made on the previous chapter about how Dainsleif was actually a captain of the Khaenri'ah's royal guard dubbed the Twilight Sword. And he says he was never trying to hide it. We just never asked. And fair enough, I guess. It's also here that he gets confronted by the very royal guards he fought side by side with 500 years ago. And to preface something throughout the quests involving him, he keeps saying that how people with the curse are no longer human and that we should not hesitate to kill them. But after meeting Halfdan, an elite of the royal guard, Dainsleif's old buddy, and the Black Serpent Knight who is still somewhat conscious, Dain, for the first time, told the Traveler to stand down and not attack an abyssal creature. Then we return to the upside-down ruin of a city, and Dainsleif says that it was not built by the Abyss Order, nor was it built by Khaenri'ah, mentioning how the ruins are of an even more ancient civilization, which is actually very, very interesting because the architecture is like that of Enkanomiya, and Enkanomiya is also a very, very ancient civilization. And to add to this, there are also scratch marks present around the tiles of the city, which is the same marks as the ones in Enkanomiya. And I think that these scratch marks are made by the elemental bishops of the light/elemental realm. He also states how if the city was the right side up, it would resemble khaenri'ah's architecture, which is very interesting indeed, but that one's a lore video for another day. The next scene shows the traveler and Dane confirmation that indeed, these Black Serpent Knights still have a small amount of consciousness left to uphold their duty of protecting the people of khaenri'ah, which is why they were protecting the dying hilichurls in the first place. They still had their own resolve and decisions, even stepping down to cease fighting with the traveler. Halfdan then leads the group to the place I call the Angst Game, where big angst happens. And in the cave, we interact with the different things that relate to the hilichurl. Paimon and the traveler also realize here how the hilichurls spend the last moments of their life, how empty it feels, and how sad it is all in the end. Because for years they have been living in eternal pain and suffering caused by the curse of immortality. Yet all they want before they take their last breath is for it to be as close to peace as possible. Even if it's a tiny percent of calmness in the sea of suffering, they'll take it. And speaking of tiny percentages compared to a vast chance of differing outcome, it seems like the Abyss sibling has the same take on it as well. It seems here that the Abyss sibling has been behind everything that's been happening with the hilichurls and the plan to cleanse them. They decided to try and save the hilichurls even if it had a small chance of succeeding. And I don't think that the Abyss siblings' decision can simply be written off as just letting their emotions control them. Because I think it's more of a situation where they have seen more traumatizing or messed up scenes that was brought by this whole curse thing, which made her think that this small percentage is more than enough to bring even a little help to the Abyss creatures. But Dainsleif, of course having more experience with the curse for 500 years now, knew that this plan would not work and would do more harm than good. Traveler showed a huge amount of doubt towards him, and rightfully so. Who wouldn't trust their sibling more than just some homeless, shady blonde guy? The Traveler ends up trusting Dane for now since they both share the same opinion of disagreeing with the Abyss siblings' judgment, and here in this very decision can we see the twins' differing worldviews. After everything the Traveler has been through, they've come to the conclusion that no one should be able to decide for another person's life. When we leave and face the Abyss Herald, we get to see Dainsleif being genuinely angry towards someone or something. He despised the Abyss Herald for being so naive and foolish on their decisions, even saying out loud how it just makes the situation worse for the hilichurls, the people he vowed to protect. And no matter how much he too wants to reverse the curse, he has already come to terms with the fact that it will never be possible. But as we enter the ruins again, we see a bright white glow that sends every hilichurl, Black Serpent Knight, and even Dainsleif himself into an extremely unbearable, psychotic, and vulnerable state. From the corner of Dane's eye, he sees his comrade from 500 years ago leaping forward to cover the cleansing device to stop the suffering of every Abyss creature in the place. But as the Traveler finally turns off the device and the dust settles, Halfdan doesn't respond. And it seems like he has already taken his last few breaths. Dainsleif, who is probably already used to death and loss at this point, tried immediately moving on from it. Yet it's very difficult to simply move on after reuniting with what remains of his friend after all those years. But as Halfdan's soul shows itself in front of Dainsleif, it was here that he realized that not all hope is lost for khaenri'ah.
Khaenri'ah didn't fall, did it? Since you're still here.
Correct. So, no need to revive the homeland.
Khaenri'ah was probably never about overthrowing the gods, nor was it about engulfing the throne of the heavens. It was about their humanity, the natural desire to create, improve, and learn even without an archon ruling them. He has suffered the same curse his people have been suffering for 500 years. He has seen his nation crumble to dust by a force he could not stop. He has seen the in and outs of the ugliness of Teyvat's world. He has seen his people turn into abominations. But it is here that Dainsleif learns that Khaenri'ah does not need to be revived, for his comrades, his friends, his people, and Khaenri'ah lives on through him. Khaenri'ah's humanity never fell, for Dainsleif's humanity still stands.